It is so good to see so many women here to celebrate Marcella Crank and the Self-Love Workbook for Women that we're going to talk about. So let's get ready. Marcella Crank is a growth coach, speaker, and author dedicated to empowering women on their journey to self-love and personal growth. A retired Air Force veteran, she brings a unique blend of discipline, expertise, and compassion to her work. She holds 2 master's degrees, one in project management and the other in business administration, and certifications as a master oncologist, neuro-linguistic programming master practitioner, life coach, cognitive behavioral therapy specialist, and skilled helper. Since 2019, Marcella has guided women in unlocking their potential, setting healthy boundaries, and developing the self-awareness necessary for meaningful personal and professional growth. She believes that true self-love is the foundation of confidence, resilience, and lasting change. Her coaching approach empowers individuals to cultivate habits that nurture emotional well-being, strengthen self-worth, and foster positive change. Beyond coaching, Marcella is a dynamic public speaker, workshop facilitator, and host of accountability programs designed to help individuals break through barriers and embrace their fullest potential. Her unwavering commitment to assisting others to lead fulfilling, empowered lives have impacted hundreds, guiding them to make informed decisions, overcome obstacles, and step boldly into their purpose. Please join me in welcoming our So Marcella, tell us a bit about your book. Just talk about your book.
Oh, well, Self-Love Workbook for Women is a book that is near and dear to my heart. And one thing I really love about it is that when you purchase it, I have broken it down into chapters and subchapters. So if you're going through an issue or you are going through a challenge, you can actually just look at the subtitles and say, oh, yeah, let's look at this. 3.3, the psychology behind imposter syndrome, because I may deal with imposter syndrome. And for those of you who don't know, imposter syndrome is when you're talented, but you don't feel like you're talented. So you're always thinking that somebody's gonna find me out because I'm not who they think I am. And a lot of us go through that, especially Black women. We feel that because we feel that we're not enough because we're bombarded with the media and how they look at us like we're not enough. We're unworthy. We're not talented. We have to do more than anybody else. So that is something that I like. There's also another chapter that's near and dear to me, and that is the chapter on negative self-talk. Because most of us, I know I have experienced it, where it's because, and again, it's the media telling us that we're not enough, not enough, we're not pretty enough, we don't work enough, everything is not enough, and we don't see, well, now we are a little bit, but for the most part, we don't see positive influences of Black women or women of color. And so because of that, because a lot of times, I'll speak for myself. So growing up, I had a lot of negative things said about me. Like, I remember I was just thinking earlier today about when I was in the military, I was chosen to work for the White House. And, you know, somebody came up to me and go, how did you get that job? And so, for me, you know, you blow it off, but that kind of stuff kind of sticks with you, right? And so many other things that cause us to talk negatively to ourselves. Like, oh, you're so stupid. You can't do anything right. And things like that. But self-love says, you're not stupid. You may have made a mistake, but you're not stupid.
Yeah, so it's funny because when I started the book, my first thought to myself was, I love myself, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I just kind of, you know, opened the book, I know what self-love is, and I think
Yeah.
what really helped me when I was reading the book is that, or maybe it just showed me more about myself, is that I could love myself better.
Right.
So I knew some things, but I could do a better job of it.
Yes.
So when you think about what inspired you to write a book specifically about self-love, because there's so many books out there,
Yeah.
but what inspired you to write this book?
Well, there was a couple of things. Number one is that during this time, my colleagues were all writing books, you know, and basically they were writing books about their struggle and how they overcame it. And really, the purpose of them writing the book is to give them credibility. And I thought about that, and I said, you know what? I don't want to follow that. I want a book that people of all nationalities can grow from. They can get this workbook, because I knew I wanted it to be a workbook, but that it would be a mirror, that they would be able to see themselves, they would be able to grow through the experience of going through the workbook. And that was one of the things, that I wanted to leave a lasting impact. I wanted this book to be part of my legacy. And like you were saying about, I love myself. So if anybody years ago, if anybody would ask me, Marcella, do you love yourself? Of course I do, without hesitation. But during my process of becoming a life coach, I realized that I really didn't love myself. And the thing is that it has a lot to do with how you treat yourself, what you tolerate, and, you know, a lot of times we might feel like, you know, then this was me in the beginning, you know, before I really knew the impact of real self-love. So for me, self-love was getting my nails done, shopping, traveling, and doing stuff like that. And, you know, that's okay. But that is not what real self-love is.
You mentioned that you didn't know that you didn't love yourself at some point in your life.
Right.
So I imagine there was a turning point when that realization came. Can you speak to that?
Yes. So, because I'm a coach, and the place that I got my certifications believe that, you know, in order for you to be a coach, and we'll talk about this later, but in order for you to be a coach, the name of it is ecology, right? And it's modern applied psychology. So they want you to apply what you learn, which is different, because if you just get a degree, you have book knowledge. But when you apply it to your life, change so that you can help other people to change. And so during that process, you know, I got coached, and I realized, because my mother had a lot of struggles, and my upbringing was traumatic. So I was able to deal with those things and realize that a lot of things that I tolerated was causing me, like when I say tolerate, I didn't have a voice. I allowed people to talk to me any kind of way. But it's so funny because even though I didn't have a voice and I allowed people to talk to me any kind of way, if you were the underdog, I would stick up for you, but I wouldn't stick up for myself. And I was a people pleaser, you know, so I would deny what I needed to help other people. And it's even more, you know, and the book covers a lot. And it's interesting that a friend of mine who was one of the editors, she said, I'm not sure if people can relate to some of the topics as self-love, but self-love is so deep that, and one of the purposes of this book is I want it to be a mirror. So as you read it, as you go through the questions, you can see really where you are, if you're honest with yourself.
Yeah, it's interesting because you talked about your past and how your process really had you thinking about the turning points even when you were younger that played a part in you as a woman. And I think that's so important because sometimes we just kind of move past those turning points. We move past those big moments that really turned the way we thought about ourselves and what we felt about ourselves, or even with you not being able, one of the chapters in the book is not being able to say no, or being a people pleaser because you're seeking validation. When you were writing this book, did you personally have to confront any of your own self-love challenges? Like almost like, oh my goodness, I'm still dealing with this.
So, because I don't think, I know I've come a long way, a very long way from when I started. But writing the book caused me to say, ooh, hey, you know what, you haven't really done this very much, you know, recently or lately. But before I wrote the book, I did a lot of work on myself. So it kind of like poured out of me. And I think the thing is that I've coached so many people, males and females, that the root cause of what they're going through is the lack of self-worth, the lack of self-love. And for the most part, that's it. You know, it comes in a variety of ways, but that is the root cause. Lack of confidence, self-love.
I feel like that's scary though when you're confronting some of those things. You know, would you say when you've talked to different people that they've been hesitant to really confront it fully, or maybe putting it on something else as opposed to, you know, or sometimes I just feel like that can just be scary.
It can be scary. And I'm thinking of this client that I had, and in our conversations, because basically in coaching, what you do, or at least what I do, and I believe what a good coach does, is not really a lot of times tell you stuff, it's asking questions. And so once you deal with the question, you realize, wow, So I had this client once, and she had issues with her mom, which she didn't realize. And so she stopped. She couldn't go any further because I think it scared her. And so, like, in our conversation, she even said some things, and I said, so what do you think about And that was the last time, because we had been, I coached her for a good month or so. But she was done. She just couldn't,
Wow.
because she didn't want to deal with and really work through, because that's what it's all about, is working through
For sure.
the
It's-
process. Right.
Yeah. So bringing it back to you, what does your personal self-love practice look like today? So you've gone through this book, you've confronted personal things of yours, you've written it. What does that look like for you today as you practice self-love?
As I practice self-love, so one thing for sure is to know that self-love is not a destination. It's a journey. It's a journey. So it's not like, okay, when I get up, I meditate, I do this, I do that, I do the other, but it's being conscious, it's being intentional of what do I need today, and as some of you know, I haven't been that well, so what do you need today? And to be aware of if I'm doing something, and it's so interesting, but am I doing something to please somebody else? Or not necessarily even please somebody else. It might be because I'm trying to accomplish something that doesn't really matter. Does that make sense? Well, one thing also, I don't know if that makes sense, but like for instance, a friend of mine is going to, where is she going? She's going to, forgot where she's going. But anyway.
She's going somewhere.
Right, she's going somewhere. and to get there, it's over 24 hours. And not Dubai. Well, anyway, it's over 24 hours. And so although I would love to go, I have to be realistic that can I do that? Can I actually be on a plane and I can't afford like the business class or the lay down one, so I'm gonna be in the economy for over 24 hours to get somewhere. Does that make sense? No, because I get tired quick or I get tired easy. And when I get tired, I need to lie down. So does that make sense? It would be great to say, oh, I'm in this place, but when I get there, will I be able to function? So that is, to me, self-love. It's like looking at it and going, is that in your best interest?
Yeah.
To go that long way? Even though it sounds like wonderful, like I can actually say, oh, I've been to wherever it was, but does it make sense? So it's really looking at life in a deeper sense, intentional. What makes sense for you? Does it make sense for you to hang out with somebody that drains you just because you want to people please? You want them to be your friend or whatever?
Right.
No, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So what I hear you say is it's really being in tune with yourself.
Yes.
On, say, today, like what do
Right.
I need today?
Yes.
And allowing yourself to feel that, to know it, and to meet that need first.
Yes.
Regardless of what's happening. I mean, sometimes we want to help others, we want to do different things, but are my needs and what I need, is that met first? So then I can give or decide
Right.
what I can and cannot give.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. It's exactly like it's like the same with the airplane. Put the mask on yourself
Yes,
first,
absolutely.
and then you can help other people. And a lot of times for us, this is all Black women here, right? We believe that self-worth is based upon what we do. What we do, how much we produce, and that's not what self-worth is. We are worthy because we're human beings. It's not what about anything that we actually accomplished. And so that was one of the things that I had to deal with, because I felt like I had to prove myself all the time. I had to prove myself. I had to be an achiever, a high achiever. I've always, worked on, okay, what's next? What's next? And when you have a mindset of what's next, it never ends. And it has nothing to do with your self-worth. It has to do with how you love yourself. Because if you are constantly looking for the next thing, if you're constantly feeling like you have to produce, you have to do, what happens? You get burnt out, you get tired, and a lot of times you end up not really knowing who you are, because you're so busy doing.
So some people would say, or just are kind of critical of the whole term of self-love. Some people think, is this being selfish? Is it even attainable? It's, to have this. What do you say when people, have these thoughts of, or what advice would you give someone who feels like self-love is selfish or unattainable?
Well, first of all, self-love is attainable, because it's really self-love. It's knowing yourself. So isn't that attainable?
Absolutely.
Knowing yourself. And it's not, and a lot of people do think that it's selfish, but is it really? Is it really taking care of yourself? Is that selfish?
I was thinking about that question, and I think when you start the journey, you can feel like, am I being selfish to think of myself? And I think sometimes that feeling comes about because you're so used to giving.
Yes.
And without the thought of really meeting your need. And so there is a feeling of all of a sudden, especially in that first stage of just really kind of turning inward and saying, what do I need? How do I feel about this? Do I want to do this? Or, just you're wrestling with yourself, where you can feel like, man, oh my goodness, all this attention on me. I feel like I'm being selfish, whether, with my family, or am I being selfish? I'm a wife and a mom.
Right.
So am I being selfish because I need a minute? No. If you take your minute, then you can give more to your family.
That's right.
You can give more here. So.
And when you were just talking, I thought about a part of the book talks about how to deal with toxic people, and how to say no, and how to set boundaries. And that was another area of my life that I didn't have any boundaries. People could have asked me, or how they spoke to me, me people pleasing, no kind of boundaries. And where I was going with this?
We were talking about boundaries and how you lack them, and people were talking about you in Callaway, or talking to you.
What was your question?
The question was, we were talking about selfish, whether people feel like self-worth is selfish or unattainable.
A lot of times, especially with toxic people, they'll make you feel bad, like you're the bad guy, because they're so used to you saying yes all the time. Can you do this? Can you, you're sitting there and you're like, today I'm gonna rest. And this is not necessarily a toxic person, but a friend calls and says, oh, can you help me move? And before you know it, you're like, okay. And you're so tired that you need that day of rest, but now you've committed yourself to helping someone. People are so used to you saying yes, that when you start saying no, they get an attitude. And they feel like you're selfish, because, what? No. They might not say that, what? No, but that's how they feel, and that's how they respond to you, like, what do you mean, no? You're being selfish. I need you.
I think it's interesting too that, so I've been in situations where I've given the quick yes,
Yes.
right? But then I think it's okay for me to change my mind. And to call them back and say, girl, you know, I know I said yes, but it's a no. So girl, I just, because sometimes we speak before we think, or whatever the situation is, but I think there's always a moment to kind of self-correct when you're on that journey. As you said, it's never where you've arrived, but even at whatever moment that you realize that, no, I am not able, you can pick up the phone, and if they're your friend and they love you, they'll understand. Right.
Exactly.
So when you think about your readers, we would be your readers. If they were to take away just one thing from your book, what would you hope it would be?
That they're worthy.
Mm.
Worthiness takes on so many different forms. I have this one client that I'm seeing, actually talking to now, and he has a business, and he was sharing with me that, well, I'll break it down and say, I realized, and I think he realized too, that his self-worth was based upon his output. And so many of us can relate to that. We're not worthy unless we're doing something that, we got output. And so he's a business owner helping other businesses and diagnosing their issues and all of that. So when he is doing his thing, getting the input to the output together, he's journaling, he's going to the gym, he's doing all of his stuff. But once he submits his findings, he doesn't do any of it. And so his worth is built upon what his value, like what I'm giving to them, the output. As long as he's doing something benefiting other people, he's taking care of himself. But once that part is done, and his client is analyzing or looking at his output, he just lets it go. And that'll continue until it's time for him to do another project, right, or diagnosis of the company. So, and it's like a cycle, and it's all based upon self-worth.
Yeah, and that is an internal work, as you mentioned before. It is such a work for you to understand your own self-worth, where it's not attached to people, it's not attached to your job, it's not attached to your accomplishments or your money.
Right.
So tell us, what is next for you? Is it another book? Is it a project? Is it a new adventure? Like, what would you say is the next thing?
Well, I have a couple of things going on. So I am writing another book.
Okay.
I already have a title, and I am working on it already. It's called The Yes Factor, How to Live, The Yes Factor, How to Live a Rich and Satisfying Life.
Okay.
And that's been on my heart, actually before this, but I felt like the Lord was saying to write this one first. And I already have a YouTube channel where we're talking about, it's called Soul Food Sanctuary. And it's about the book, and I have a co-host, Yvette, who is helping me with that project. And I would really, really love to have a retreat.
Okay.
A self-love retreat for about 5 days.
All right. Well, we're going to be looking forward to some information on that retreat and the new book.
And I also wanted to mention that, so in the book, I think it's like on 184 or something like that. Now it's funny because it seems like I'm not sure if people get that far yet, but I have, in the handout I gave you all, I have a QR code, but in the book I have a QR code right here that if you're interested in joining my WhatsApp group. So I would like to get that going because I really believe in community.
Well, thank you, Marcella, for sharing. And right now, I'd like to just open it up to the audience to share any reflections that you have, any thoughts that came about as we did the interview, or ask any questions you may have toward the author.
Well, hi.
Yes, hi.
Hi there. Everybody, hi. My name's Keisha.
Hey, Keisha.
So I'm interested to understand. It seems like the book is geared towards women, and what made you gear the book towards women versus like men and women?
Right. That women, well, I really want to speak to women, but like I was saying, I have male clients too, and the principles in the book are applicable to men too, but how it's taught is that you need to focus on one group of people, so I chose women, but it's definitely applicable to everybody. Yes, Mary.
Have you thought about having a group go through the workbook together, and you kind of walk them through it, and you meet periodically, weekly, every other week?
That sounds good. I actually, no, I did think, but that sounds good. I did think about having book discussions where we kind of do that, but it would be great if I got some committed women who we would actually go through the book together. That's a good idea.
I would like to say, what really resounded with me was the discussion about the self-love versus selfishness. Because I think for a long, long time, I did feel like to consider myself first was a selfish thing to do. And I'm not quite sure where I got that notion unless it was something that I saw. Like, I saw my mother always put herself first. My grandmother the same way. And so when I would consider myself first, I felt very selfish. So it's something I have to practice. Like to this day, I have to practice considering myself, oh no, I want that one. You know, don't give it away because I really want that one, you know. Lavila always is, I guess I'm doing a good job because my daughter told me I say no a lot now. But I guess it just resounded with me that that's something that I continue, I won't say to struggle with, but to remember, okay, you know, you're worthy, you're just as worthy. Yes, they're worthy, but you are too.
Right.
I have another question. Do you think that this issue of self-love is something that is a struggle for women more so than men? And do you see this as a generational stumbling block that our girls also deal with? And
Go on.
no,
Are you finished?
Mhm.
Oh yeah, most definitely that it's generational. And I'm so glad that there's some young people here because we all need to hear it. And my focus is on women primarily, but men need to hear it too because men have the same struggles. And I know that because I coach men, and they have the same struggles. But I also believe that women have a hard time being totally honest if men are around, you know? And so that's why, another reason why I chose just women, so that we can, you know, the book is Rise in Love series, Rise in Love, so that we can rise in love together. Because we are so bombarded with what other people think about us, that we don't realize our strength, our resilience, our worth. Yes.
So I'm going to piggyback a little bit off of what Stacy said and say, what would you say to the person who finds giving to others makes them feel like they love themselves. That is what they see love is, able to share and feel more comfortable sharing than holding back. What would you say is the self-love lacking, or is that a way of being, does that mean you do have self-love because that is you, that is what your heart desires?
So it's not up to me to decide, it's up to you to decide. So if someone came to me and said what you just said, I would say, so why do you feel it? And maybe it is genuine, maybe it could be that you're not conscious of people pleasing. And this is in my life. For me, I consider myself a giver, but I used to give in order for me to feel good, but in order for the other person to like me. So the question is, so why are you doing that? And for you, the answer might be different. Yes.
So as a mother, as a, a wife in the past, not a wife now, but as mothers, women, sisters, aunts, and so on, I think we are raised in a way to believe that everybody comes before us.
Right.
Yes.
And, we worry about our kids and our grandkids and so on and so forth. And I think that's a part of what, especially for me, I was listening to Stacy, I'm learning how to say no. We have a lot of sessions together where we talk about it, I'm always giving, I'm always the one, and I'm always the one hurting in, and then I cry on her shoulder, of course, but I'm learning how to say no. I mean, I've cut people out of my life, I've took a step back from things that I used to be a part of, and I'm feeling like I'm learning to love me, even though I'm not at that point where I'll say I'm first. Because if somebody calls and says, what are you doing? And I'm just laying around because I want rest, and well, I need you to come go somewhere, I'm up and running. And I feel like no matter how tired I am, you're sleeping a little bit, right? But I'm just like, you're just doing it because everybody else wants you to do it. Not because it's something that you always want to do, but you're doing it, like we said, to help or to be a part of or to just please somebody else. And that's how I was raised. Right. My mom always told me if somebody likes the shirt on your back better than the shirt, that you're having and they like it better, you'll never enjoy that shirt because you'll keep thinking about they wanted it, so give it to them, and she's like, that was the kind of raising that I had. So it was like, even though I love the shirt, I don't want to give it away, but somebody said, girl, I want that shirt, and I'll go to the store and look for another one, and there's no more there, and then it's like, okay, I'll give it to you, but I just got rid of the love that I had for myself, is how I feel about it. So, I think that it's something that we were raised to believe that, give, and never take for ourselves or do for ourselves.
Right.
So this is a good idea for me.
I think she hit it on the head when I asked my question and she said, it's up to you.
Yeah.
Because I know I'm a person who likes to give, not so much that I love to please people, but I like to see a smile on someone's face and for someone to receive it with joy. That makes me feel really good, like wow, that makes me love myself because it's an open heart. But if it gets to the point where that person it has an expectation or feels entitled, or what I'm doing is enabling them, now it's time to draw back. That's also loving myself. I'm not, so the way the Lord showed me a while ago about being so giving, but you can give, but you don't give good after bad. You don't enable someone who's not trying to do for themselves. They just always calling you, do, and they're not doing for themselves. Nope, you can't give good after bad. You're doing from an open, giving heart, but you can't keep giving to people who aren't receiving it in love. They're receiving it like you're supposed to. I'm entitled. I need that. When you don't really need that.
I think it's interesting too that sometimes we give from a place to receive the gratitude. Right. Because the gratitude is what gives me self-worth. To see, so even with what you were saying, Marilyn, what if you don't get the thank you?
It's not the thank
Right,
you.
I'm not saying that to you, I'm just saying in general.
Yeah,
If you
yeah.
don't get the thing, if you don't necessarily get the smile, is it enough just to give
Mhm.
without receiving anything in return? And I think if we're looking for something,
Yeah.
you know, because a lot of times our actions, we are looking for something in
Yes.
return. You know, there's a purpose for why I'm doing this, because I'm looking for something.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you have to really think about, am I looking for something from them? And it could be different somethings. It could be appreciation, it could be praise, it could be friendship. But if I don't ever get it, you know, I think that's a testament to, am I giving from the right place? You know, am I giving from the right place? If I don't ever get that thank you, if I never get the gratitude, it's enough for me, you know, to just give, because that's who I am. So I think we have to think about the return, because sometimes there is a little return that you're looking for, even if you don't want to address it, or you don't, you know, want to look at it. It's some kind of return you're getting from it, because if you didn't get it, you feel it. Like, she didn't even say thank you, you know, but you didn't need the thing, you know, so you just gave it up. She didn't even say thank you. What were you looking for? It's okay if she didn't say thank you, you know, so I think that's just something to think about.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Expectations.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
First of all, my name is Shay. Hi, everyone.
Hey.
What is some advice that you would give to young women specifically, as they're going on their self-love journey?
That's a very good question. My first thought was that we, as especially Black women, and especially Black people, we are so bombarded with the media and what beauty looks like, what success looks like. And most of the time, it's not about us. So, first of all, my advice is to be who you are. To know that you're worthy without you having to do anything. You're worthy because you're human. And a lot of times, what we do, and especially I know for me, when I was your age, my worth was based upon my output. And a lot of people is like that, but that is not what your worth is based on. It's not what you do, it's based upon you being human. And it's not based upon being a perfectionist. It's not based upon being a superwoman, doing it all, having it all. That's not what it's based on. And a lot of times, we as women strive to achieve and losing ourselves in that. So don't lose yourself. Be who God created you to be, regardless of what other people say. Because a lot of times we may pivot or not pursue what we believe we need to be pursuing because of what other people are saying. So don't pay attention to the naysayers. And know that you're worthy.
I think also, just to piggyback on you, I was thinking about the importance of learning who you are.
Yes.
Like that self-awareness
Yes.
is so important.
Yes.
Like, no, like simple things like, do I like this? I don't like that. You know, what makes me happy?
Right.
What drains me? You know, what discourages me? I don't like that tone. I don't like what they're talking to me right now. Just that whole self-awareness and understanding who you are is, and accepting it, even the good and the bad, and the ugly. Right now, you gotta do something with that ugly and that bad, but that's a process too, you know? But I think it starts there, and I think you have to slow down. You have to slow down to understand who you are, and you have to pay attention to yourself, you know? And I think sometimes our attention is so on so many other things that we're not really listening to ourselves. We're not really in tune with how we feel.
you can do anything else, because being self-aware of who you are, that means spending time with yourself, by yourself, spending time getting to know who you are, getting to know what you like, what you don't like. But self-awareness is the foundation, because if you don't know who you are, you won't know what you like and what you don't like, right? And you won't know, a lot of self-awareness will cause you to know who I am and what changes I need to make in myself. What makes me, and like, I'm not gonna even repeat it, but what Kim said was point right on.
So Marcella, before we totally just transition to the next phase, are there any closing words or a final message you'd like to share, either about a topic in the book, a self-love book, or just in your book in particular? Any final words?
Any final words? Well, I think we had a very, very good discussion. And, right, I have a chapter 6, Cultivating Self-Awareness. And I would say how you cultivate self-awareness is one of my main things, is journaling. Because when you journal, you are being honest with yourself. And then, it's so funny, like, long time ago, I was journaling, this is before I was married, and, I would I wasn't consistent, right? But there was one thing, and that was finding a man, or being with a man and how I felt and all of that. Like, over 4 or 5 years, that's what I always wrote about. So with that, it told me what was on the top of my, what was on my mind. But one thing about this book that I want to leave is that, I want to say actually 2 things. So after each section, there's a reflection questions that you can go through. And I made a journal, because for me, I don't want to mess up my book, right? Because I change all the time. So I decided to do the journal. Now, the journal in the beginning has some different nuggets in it than the self-love workbook has. But the questions in the journal are the same. And the workbook also has, not only does it have questions, it also has little assignments, little things that you can work on. But this book, I want to say it's a book that I feel like if you go through it seriously, honestly with yourself, it's a mirror of who you are. And it also gives you ways to change the way you are, if you desire to change. It gives you the how-tos.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
The giveaways.
And everybody feel free to grab something to eat.
Yeah, right.
Get something to drink.
And then, we'll go to